This is as far back as I can go. I hope this is good enough. I'll try and keep my hands up here the whole time if that'll help, but here we go. I used to volunteer at an animal shelter. I was 13 or 14 when I first started, and I loved it. Not only did I get to go in there and see a bunch of cute animals every day, but I also learned what it was like to work not just with people, but in a professional-ish work setting. I say ish because working with animals, playing with animals, just doesn't feel like work. But it's fulfilling. Nevertheless, I came here today to tell you all what it's like to volunteer at an animal shelter and how they ensure the safety, health, and happiness of not only the animals, but the faculty there. The first thing I would like to talk about is how shelters ensure the safety around their facilities. The first thing they try to incorporate is taller kennels. The reason we have taller kennels is so that dogs don't jump from one enclosure to the next. We also have to have open tops, as suggested by the Humane Society of the United States, because an open top means that the lights from above can come in, rather than them coming in from the bottom or from in front. If they come in from the bottom, there's a chance that the dog can mess them up. They're also really hard to fix. And if they're in the aisle, it's going to be shining in the dog's faces all the time, and that's just going to make them more irritable and probably give them headaches and cause other issues that we really don't want. The kennels also are built very, very sturdy, so that way the dogs don't have a way of interacting with one another. If dogs touch noses, there's a chance they can transmit diseases, and the worst case scenario of that is an entire shelter full of mange or demodex, which would be really, really bad. Another way that a shelter will ensure the safety of not only the animal but their faculty is we'll use, instead of a clip-on leash, is a slip-on lead. Caesar, the dog whisperer, actually demonstrates a very, very good way to use these in a safe way, because if they're used incorrectly, they can be dangerous, which is why we only have personnel who know how to use these leads use them. So the way that you use a slip-on lead is that you open it wide enough to slip around the animal's head, and then pull it tight, not too tight, because then you could end up strangling the animal, and we don't want that. So the way to correct using a slip-on lead is not to pull back, because that's how you end up doing them harm, but you want to give them a light pull to the side, just as a correction and get their attention from whatever they're doing. So these are the ways that they keep safety in mind. Next, I would like to talk to you about how they ensure the health of their animals, which is a lot like safety, but on a more biological level. As I said before, we really don't want germs spreading between dogs. So a way that we do this is, when it comes to feeding time, we sanitize all the bowls after taking them out of the kennels and before putting them back in, because we don't want to leave the bowls in there because they could step on them and slip around and maybe hurt themselves. And we also don't want to use automatic feeders. The Humane Society of the United States also suggests not using automatic feeders because they're really, really hard to clean. There's just places you can't get in there as you can with just a simple metal bowl, so that's why we use metal bowls instead of the automatic feeder. Another way we keep animals healthy is bath time. We want to make sure that animals are always clean, and a bath can really help, especially if they have mange or the fleas. So the way to make sure that a rescued animal has a good bath, according to the website WAG, on their How to Bathe a Rescued Dog article, suggests that you use pleasant temperature water, introduce them slowly to the bath because the running faucet can kind of be noisy, and wear protective equipment. Protective equipment can mean some gloves if you want, longer sleeves, especially if you're bathing a cat, or putting a muzzle on the dog if it's necessary. We just want to make sure that the person washing the animal and the animal are also safe. Lastly, I would like to talk about how to keep animals happy. So the way that we shelters keep animals happy is giving them lots and lots of positive attention. Using a cheery voice or positive body language can really help when you're interacting with a dog. You don't, however, according to Madsen's article on how human body language can affect a dog's behavior, you don't want to look a dog directly in the eyes because that can be seen as a challenge or make them fearful. You also don't want to act fearful in front of a dog because that can make them just as nervous. Like, why are you being scared? Is there a reason I should be scared? And you really don't want to do that. So the best way to interact with a dog when it comes to giving them good and positive attention and making them feel comfortable is to be confident but not careless. Another way that we ensure animal shelters ensure the happiness of their animals is playtime. Keeping an animal active can be really, really good for their health, and it'll help them release all that pent-up energy from being in the kennel so long, and when they're tired and they go back to their kennel, it'll make them have a much more pleasant experience inside the enclosure so that they're not always trying to get out because they're tired and they're ready to sleep and just chill out and be by themselves. As stated by the website, the ArcVet website, yes, keeping an animal happy will all around keep them in a better mood. And a better mood means a less aggressive and more adoptable animal. Volunteers at the animal shelter take great care to make sure that their animals are comfortable while they're there. I hope to leave you all with a better understanding of how animal shelters operate and how that they keep their people and their animals safe, healthy, and happy.